So we've covered algebraic long division in the theory video. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to present a couple of questions to you. I want you to pause the video, have a crack at them, then come back and check your answers with the work I'm going to present. So here you go. I want you to calculate the quotient and remainder for both of these calculations here. So the first one, x squared minus 5x plus 1 divided by x minus 2. And the second one, x to the power of 4 plus 2x minus 1 divided by x plus 3. So pause the video, have a go, come back and check your answers. So the first one, x squared minus 5x plus 2 divided by x minus 2. Remember, when we're doing these, we set them up like a normal division calculation. What we're dividing by, the x minus 2 goes outside, and what we're dividing goes underneath. Now remember, we have to look at the order of powers. Now this is an x squared, then an x, and then a constant. So it's fine, we can just write it in here, x squared minus 5x plus 1 without having to take into account any gaps for powers. We'll have a look at that in a minute with the second example. Now remember our steps for this. We take the first term here, and we divide the first term here by it. So we do x squared divided by x, and that gives me an x. We then take our answer and multiply this by that answer. So we do x minus 2 times the x. When we do that, we get x squared, take away 2x. And at that point, what we do is we subtract this new part from the top part. What we should find every single time, if we've done it correct, is this highest power here vanishes. So we've got x squared minus x squared, great, it's gone. We've then got minus 5x, take away negative 2x, minus minus becomes a plus, so negative 5x plus 2x gives me negative 3x, and then there's nothing here, so it's then just a plus 1. We then look here at the highest power. Now the highest power has to be less than the highest power here. If it's equal to or bigger than, we do another step. Well, the highest power here are equal to each other, we do it again. So this time we take the first term again and divide the first term here by it. So negative 3x divided by x gives me minus 3. We then take the minus 3 and multiply this whole thing by it. So we end up getting minus 3x plus 6. And again, same step at this point, we subtract. So we get minus 3x, take away negative 3x. So it's minus 3x plus 3x, it disappears. Great, exactly what we wanted. We've then got 1, take away 6, gives me negative 5. So at this point, I've now got a power that's smaller than the highest power here. There is no x term, which means technically our power of x would be 0, because x to the 0 is 1. It's the power of 1 here. Great, we can stop. At this point, what I can then do is say, therefore, x squared minus 5x plus 1 divided by x minus 2, what that gives me is x minus 3, remainder negative 5. So there's my quotient, and there's my remainder. So that's how we end up getting to one like this. We just have to remember these key steps to come and follow through. Our second example was x to the power of 4 plus 2x minus 1 divided by x plus 3. Again, set it up the same way. So we get the same layout. Our x plus 3 is doing the dividing, it's outside, and this goes underneath. Now, one thing to notice, I said to you in the previous example, look at the powers. They should be in descending order. Well, this is x to the 4 plus 2x minus 1. So yeah, it is in descending order, but there's no x cubed and there's no x squared term. Now, when we're laying it out, any gaps in the powers like that, we have to imagine they're there. So we could imagine we've got x to the power of 4, we've got no x cubed, so we've got no x squared. So you could imagine we leave a gap here. So there's our x cubed, there's our x squared. Now if it's easier to understand, you could also technically write plus 0 x cubed plus 0 x squared, just so you get a better visual idea of that gap. There's nothing there, but we still have to take into account the powers. We then have the plus 2x minus 1. And at this point we're able to then do exactly what we were doing before. First term here divides the highest term here, so we get x to the 4 divided by x. That gives me an x cubed. Now it's key to remember, yeah, I've got no x cubed here, but when I divide, I can fill in the gap. So just watch that. Don't fall into the trap of thinking there can't be an x cubed here, because there's not one here. We then take this and multiply the whole thing here by it. So we do x plus 3 times x cubed, so that gives me x to the power of 4 plus 3x cubed. And I then subtract it from each. So x to the 4 take away x to the 4 is nothing. 0x cubed take away 3x cubed. it's minus 3x cubed, and then we fill in the gaps along. So I've got nothing here. Again, if it helps, you can keep that as plus 0x squared. We then got plus 2x minus 1. Now look at the highest power here, it's cubed, that's an x, we go again. Remember, we have to go until the highest power in this part here is less than the highest power there. Not equal to, less. So x into negative 3x cubed gives me minus 3x squared, and we then take it and multiply this whole thing by it. So I get minus 3x cubed minus 9x squared. And again, I subtract it to get rid of my highest power. So negative 3x cubed minus minus, that becomes a plus 3x cubed, gives me nothing. 0x squared minus minus 9x squared, minus minus becomes an add, so we get 9x squared. Plus 2x minus 1. Again, highest power, look at it, still bigger, we go again. Sometimes you can have to repeat this process several times to get the final answer, and we're doing that now. 9x squared divided by x gives me a plus 9x, multiply this whole thing by it, and I get 9x squared plus 27x. Again, we then subtract it at this point to get rid of the highest power, so 9x squared take away 9x squared is nothing. 2x take away 27x is negative 25x, and then minus 1 there. Highest power here is equal to the highest power there, so we still have to go, but we can safely say I've got one more step. This is it, last one. So negative 25x divided by x gives me minus 25, and then multiply this whole thing here by it. I get negative 25x, I've then got 3 times negative 25, negative 75. Take them away from each other, the first term goes, so negative 25x plus 25x is nothing. I've then got negative 1 minus minus, so plus 75, which gives me 74. At that point, I can look at it and say, right, I'm done. Now I just have to communicate my answer. So what we can then say is, fine, x to the power 4 plus 2x minus 1 divided by x plus 3. What that ultimately gives me as a final answer is x cubed minus 3x squared plus 9x minus 25, remainder 74. So I've got my two parts that I was asking for then. It's key you just follow the steps, and it's always the same. First number divides the number, put it up the top, multiply it, and then subtract it. And you keep going until your highest power in your answer, so in this part here, is less than the highest power here. Not equal to, it has to be strictly less than. Bear that in mind when you're doing it.